In terms of the church is also pretty young in Singapore. My parents' generation are probably like first generation members in the church. They're also like first generation Singaporeans in Singapore. So like my grandfather is from China, and he like migrated to Singapore, and that's where my parents were. Well, so that generation migrated to Singapore, and then my parents' generation were born in Singapore. And so in that regard, both in church and just Singapore in general is a really young country. But both my parents were converts to the church, and it's kind of interesting. My mom told me a few stories about how it used to be like, and I think it must be really interesting, like being in the church setting when it's still really young in that location, because the culture hasn't really developed yet. People still have like their own way of doing things, and they don't know like what's kind of like kosher and not kosher like in the church. And so like starting out, I think like my mom would say like people would just, they wear like mini skirts to activities and like a sleeveless top and things like that. And church on Sunday back then, like when like the church just started out in Singapore, I think there was a break between sacrament and Sunday school or something like that. And my mom said that like in between, like it's not enough, there's like an hour break and it's not enough to go back home and stuff like that. So they go to a nearby food place and like have a meal together in between church meetings. And I thought it was kind of funny. And the reason why she shared that story with me, interestingly enough, was because when I was on a mission, like that was a big problem that we had. We had a lot of members who would go shopping and would buy food on Sundays, and they, in that regard, didn't keep the Sabbath day holy. And so I was really troubled and like unsure of how to help members like keep these commandments and these commitments. And so my mom shared this story with me and helped me to see like when the church is young in a certain place, like that's kind of just how it is starting out. Like people don't really have much of an example to follow, and so they really don't know like the seriousness of like the covenants that they make when they're baptized and stuff like that. And so I think like it's kind of interesting to be able to hear stories like that from my parents and to hear about how the church started out, and how it grew. We have one stake in Singapore, and it's a pretty solid stake, I think. We have a lot of strong members, and it's a really neat story, I think.